Hello. Thank you for
Nothing much.
joining us.
Thank you for having me. I had to take a step out real quick. I had back to back meetings today, but I really wanted to do this because I felt like my story. I would want to get my story out there because I've gone through a few of you guys' previous recordings, and I'm like, this is a really good platform for men to have a chance to be able to speak, and say their side because we're vilified so many times and never given a chance to properly express where we're coming from, our emotions that we're experiencing. So, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Where are you calling us from?
LA.
Okay. Can you kind of turn towards the light because it's like a glare across your face?
Okay.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
good?
that'll work. Yeah, that'll
Okay.
work. All right.
Okay.
So how many kids do you have that's being alienated?
One, my oldest daughter. She will be 5 in March.
Oh, okay. Was it a with you and your the mother of your kids? Was it a situationship? Was y'all married?
No, we
Was y'all
were we were
together?
together. We were together and we were engaged for I think close to about 11 and 12 years. We had talked, planned the whole marriage stuff, but we had a few rocky moments where it kind of put us on hold, and it got to not us questioning each other, but questioning the situation of what we were doing. And we came to a point where we agreed that we had faced certain traumas and that together we were going to work on that to try to better each other, and obviously better ourselves for our future kids. And it kind of went from there downhill. So yeah.
So it ended mutually.
In how it ended, I would say no. And the reason I say that is there's plenty of times that we have people within our families and maybe ourselves that we have our groups. We have our brothers or sisters or mom, dads, friends, whoever that we may go to that we go through our stuff. And a lot of times I didn't really go to anybody and speak about anything because it's kind of like if you say the minute something happens today and I run over and I go and I tell my whole crew, oh well, this happened today, and then I turn around and I forgive her for it or whatever, it makes me look like a fool afterward. So I used to just really pause and I would see how it play out, and different things that we would speak about it and try to be better of it, not to let it affect us or get between. But it got certain things start coming up too frequently to where I was like, okay, I have to speak about this. And I felt like every time that I would talk about it, it would become a thing of, oh, I'm trying to be controlling, I'm trying to be narcissistic. When I'm like, no, I look at respect in a different manner than you may, and so I require a certain attention and level of respect that I'm willing to give, and I am giving. But if you don't meet me there, I'm going to call you out on it. And slowly we grew apart. When I ended up finding out that she was pregnant with my daughter, I thought it was a joke because I, for one, had had a couple of motorcycle accidents where I had hurt myself, and I was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have kids again because of the damage that I had sustained to my lower half of my body, my back, my hips, my pelvis. So I was like, all right, cool.
Mm.
So she came to me, she told me, I was like, yeah, I BS, hung the phone up, didn't believe any of it. It then turned into a real thing real quick, and it was a thing of excitement. But again, we weren't on the same page. We had recently broken up a couple months previous to that. We were trying to work on things, but I was kind of already halfway in, halfway out. And now that a child was coming along, I was like, you know what? I'll do the right thing and forget what I want for now. I have to be here. So I stayed and I supported it best as possible. I did my part as best as possible. But with that, the family got too involved to where they were trying to dictate and ridicule my every move, what I was doing, how I was providing, how often I had to work, how many hours I had to work, and it became a thing where I would constantly go to her like, "Hey, you need to fix this because it's not my point to speak to these people; it's your family." Anyway, it got to a thing where she started to try to call my mother out and started to try to pick what problems with my mom as to kind of give I guess a leverage to say, well, if you got problems with my family, I got problems with your family too.
Mm.
And I ignored it. I ignored it. And where it kind of boiled over was after my daughter had been born, um, the reluctancy in my mother having the opportunity to just watch her grandchild. This was her first
Mm.
grandchild, as it was her mother's as well. And so I felt like it was very unfair that any time that we would discuss, and I think all young parents should do this, is it's great and exciting to be a parent, but you have to remember that if you're young and if not, you still have a partner that you have to appeal to, you have to take care of mentally, physically, spiritually, and you can't forget each other at a time, especially at a time like that. And so nights of taking a night off from being a parent and going out on a date is very important. You
Yeah.
reconnect with each other. You help to reconfirm what you guys are about to build. And I think there was such a lack of that because her parents were older, so it was very seldom and very limited to what they could actually help with in terms of watching the baby. And my mother, being that that's what she's done her whole life, it was easier for her to step in. And so every time that she offered help, it was rejected. And it just got to the point where my family started questioning what was her reasoning behind it. Well, when I brought it up, tempers flared, words got expressed, things got said, and it kind of went from there.
Okay, so how long have you been alienated from your kid?
So it was happening for about a year and a half, almost two. And then I decided, I said, I'm not dealing with this anymore. So I took her to court and I filed for joint custody. In some way down the line, I still don't know how this even happened, but I ended up losing the case. I ended up not even getting any visitation. And there was a question of, I found out that there was some infidelity. So I found out that she was messing around, um, and that the child was potentially not mine. So, I'm not scared to
Right.
say it or embarrassed. It is what it is. And so I prescribed to requesting a DNA test, and it came back that she was mine. But in that moment, the way she presented it and the way things were looking, it looked at that point as if though this child had belonged to someone else. So this was my main reason for not accepting the terms of visitation that they offered at first, because I'm like, I'm not going to be in a child's life that isn't mine when you're clearly here dealing with the dad. So that needs to be your thing. But the thing is, she told on herself. So when the information got brought to, I just sat there quietly and I simply responded and I said, well, who is the dad? Is it him or is it me? And she hung the phone up and I didn't hear from her again. So I said, okay, no problem. I'd already contacted legal at that point. I'd already had counsel, but the counsel had told me to basically work it through before you have to go to court. I did that. She didn't meet me in the middle, sent all kind of emails and everything to try to navigate having some middle ground to co-parent. Nothing. So I went and I filed a hearing to get visitation. And up until that point, she would only allow me to see my daughter once a week, and that was from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10:30 in the morning when I would have to take her to her gymnastics class. She wouldn't let me see her no other
Right.
time during the week. I would constantly hit her up like, "Hey, what could I do to be able to gain your trust so that I could, see my kid?" When I moved out, I walked into the house and I moved out. I packed my own things and I left because at some point we had got into a verbal argument. She called my mother a bitch. Excuse my French. That's just something I don't stand on. My mother is my world. She's amazing. She's done everything for me and allowed me to get where I'm at today in life. So, what kind of man would I be to allow someone else to disrespect my mother to that extent when I've never disrespected her parents? Even after being racially dealt with them, being called all kind of niggers and monkey and all kind of stuff among them and their family, it was far out for me the things that I swallowed and I took for the sake of the relationship. Whereas now that my mom is expressing that she has an issue with something or asking me if there's an issue, now it becomes this whole ordeal, and I just start seeing where she was deflecting. So when I moved out, even then it was worse. I couldn't see the kid; she wouldn't allow me to see her. So I just got tired of the back and forth, and that's why I took her to court, and I ended up still losing. Because she then got in there, she cried wolf, saying that I'm this and I'm that, and I used to abuse her, and I used to beat on her and all this stuff. And again, I openly say this because I'm not scared of nothing, I hide nothing. But then when we get to court under oath, she clearly comes out and says, "Well, he's never done me anything. We've just been, verbally back and forth with each other, cussing each other, getting loud, getting into arguments." And I asked, "Well, then why are we in court? What are we doing?" It went from a family hearing to now a criminal hearing because it was like, okay, you're this abusive guy. When I'm like, where is, if anybody ever did, I was the only one that ever called the police on her. I was the only one that ever filed a report. I was the only one that ever did that. So where does any of this happen? And quickly it went from me being able to see my daughter to me having a restraining order filed on me for being this super dangerous guy. And then I haven't seen my daughter since. So in the
So
midst of that,
with that being said, I got one question to ask you then.
mhm.
So
Who's the
Who's the
deadbeat?
deadbeat?
Look, obviously I don't want to be the guy and ever speak about a partner in a negative way, regardless of what goes on. I always want to maintain respect because someday my child may see this. But for the sake of being truthful, in my own opinion, I have to say that she is, because I don't understand what woman in their right mind, regardless if the relationship doesn't work out, you have a man that's standing in front of you saying, "Let me see my daughter. Give me the opportunity to take care of my daughter. I will pay all her medical bills, school fees, whatever. Just bring her to me. Let me get her 3 days a week. Let me." No, 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 no. So when you've been rejected in so many different ways of trying to provide a solution to be a better dad, to be a more active dad, and it's done nothing but get shut down, you lose hope after a while. And so as her stories transgressed and progressed, I saw the deadbeat more and more, whereas she wanted to play the victim. She wanted to seem like she was the one that went through all of these things, but there was no solid evidence, there was no solid proof of nothing. It was just a back and forth, and I kept quiet the last 2 3 years of this going on. Um, but I'm tired of being quiet because I need to at some point defend myself, and after berating myself and my family through social media, having to go as far as asking the court to ask her to stop. Um, that's as far as it has gotten, and she's done everything in her power to keep me away from my daughter. I've sent, money advances. I've sent gifts. I've sent flowers. I've sent, things that I can, and before certain things took place, they were all
So let
rejected or turned away. So
so let so let me ask you this. So what could you pretty much said y'all was pretty much on the same page. Y'all both know that it was pretty much over, right?
yeah.
So what you think her motive is, or why she doing these things then?
So as I think the story goes with many people who find some type of success. At the time when we were together for majority of it, I was playing ball, trying to go to the NFL, finishing school, doing all the right things I was supposed to do. I ended up getting hurt, was unable to continue forward. So I got into the work field. And it was a struggle, it was a grind. And I jumped around, I worked in the restaurant industry, I did different things, but security ended up being my thing, hence the name Cam the Bodyguard. And so when I had my opportunity and when my time came, things were moving along. My degrees, my footing of education that I had helped to give me a platform that I was able to conduct and provide business and get jobs where other people wouldn't. And so as I started to grow, I started to see some sort of almost like resentment, like a competition of, "Oh, well, I do just as much," or "I do this better than you." And I'm like, "Yo, we're partners. Why are we competing with each other?" I don't get that. And then slowly it turned into, "Oh, you think you're better than people. Oh, you think you have money now. Or if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have a business." So it quickly got to her trying to level me out so that I wouldn't have money. She even went as far as telling my family she never understood why she couldn't have my bank accounts or access to my banks. When it came to my money, why didn't I go to her to speak about finances? So as I really sat down and I thought about things, I'm like, well, you probably only ever had a baby just to try to trap me because you thought that now that I've come into success and I was seeing money, that you were going to get away with just getting whatever you wanted, how you wanted, on your terms. There was no conditions, there was no conversation, there was no compromise. And I just felt like that was just of the utmost most rudeness, and I just couldn't stand for that. So I put my foot down and I said, "Look, this is what's going to happen. This is how I could help. This is how I'm willing to help. If you don't want that, then I don't know what else to tell you." And even when we went to court, I offered to give her $1,500 a month in child support, and she was, I said, "I'm not going to go sign the paperwork with child support. I'm not doing anything with the state because I know how that goes. That's a contract. I'm not entering into that. Nobody needs to tell me how to take care of my daughter. So here's what I'll do: I give you $1,500 cash every month for her, and I'll pay all the other bills and cover it. I'm not paying anything to child support." Child support was awarding her 750, right?
Now
She
why
wouldn't
why
take.
why, why would you do that? Because that's a lot of money for some
Well,
men.
because what, obviously they'll want to then get into your personal business, dig up through your stuff, go through everything that you're doing, and then what she doesn't understand is that, yeah, you might get money from the county, but you're not getting the full amount of money. You're getting a portion of the money, and if at any time that you do anything outside of the regulational measures that you're prescribed to, then you get hit with a fine. And then if I don't show up, then I get hit with a fine, and then I get my credit. I'm not doing all that. I have another
Okay,
son.
so did she accept it?
No, she didn't. She rejected it. And so at that point I said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm done with the rat race. I've provided every solution. And again, I don't want to. There's certain things that I don't mind saying, but I don't want to get into the depths of that because that's like for a whole deeper conversation of how that situation played out. But because the stories jumped from one thing to the next, it ultimately pushed me to the point where I felt like at some point she would probably make up a story of me trying to harm my daughter or trying to do something more because that's how it got to. It was like she was just pulling things out of her ass just to say. And so I felt scared to even deal with it. So I ended up just stepping back and waiving my rights because I felt the need to protect my child from salacious misinformation that may be fed to her about who and how I am. And I decided to separate myself
So
from it.
legally, you waived your rights, or you just took a break?
Legally, I waived my rights after about 3 years of fighting to be able to see her, and I still feel guilty about that. But again, I could not take my other child and get him involved into that, and now the way of his life would then be affected because again, what woman in any situation splitting up wouldn't say, okay, this man is a good guy, he's willing to take care of his responsibility, he's meeting me in the middle, he's giving me financial and physical help, he's willing to take the kid off my hands whenever I need to. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna do it. I don't want that help. This is what I want. And it just felt like there was no compromise. There was no meat in the middle. And there's just I have boundaries, and I kept to my boundaries. I stood my ground, and yeah. But it doesn't go past the fact that for 2 years she still kept my child from me. She
How old
made it.
is your other son? I mean, your other baby.
My son is now he's one, so
So both of
he's
you
one.
guys moved on with other people.
I don't know about her, but I know I moved on. Again, like I told you, when she became pregnant, we weren't together. I stuck it out. During that time, it was super difficult for me. But as a man, you have to because you guys go through a lot. You know, a lot of emotions, a lot of physical, issues, and you need that support and help.
But
But what
how
am
is
I to?
that? I'm trying to figure out how is
It
she
was I
dealing
think that
with
she
you
she
having another kid. Was that ever mentioned, brought up, part
well
of
no
the
this
problem?
came after. So again, the problem was that I worked too much. That was the biggest issue, is that I worked too much. I was never there. But then again, I'm like, I'm taking care of all the bills. So what do you want me to do? You want me home looking at you in your face, or do you want me at work working so I could pay the bills so you can relax? Right? Like, tell me what it is that you want. I'm giving it to you, but you don't want to take it. So it quickly turned into I'm not there, that I'm an absentee father, that I'm all this, but I'm like, my hands are tied. So I can't really say what her reasoning is, but when I moved on, I told her I was done. I didn't
But
want to be
did
with
you
her
think
anymore.
she still wanted to be together?
I'm very sure that she did, but I mean, you got to be able to read the room. You're a grown woman at this point. If I'm telling you I don't want to be with you, if I'm telling you that I'm not happy, if I'm telling you that I've spoken to you multiple times, created or tried to create different solutions for us to meet in the middle, and you've seemingly just rejected every ounce of information that I've shared with you, and you've just continuously done your own thing, then I beg to differ that you actually give a fuck about what's going on, and you only care about
It
what
just
you want.
it doesn't make sense because you guys were together for quite some time.
Yeah,
And I mean, typically when women become bitter and they alienate the kids, it's for a reason, or just it's
David.
rarely just cause, right, a personal reason for them.
yeah.
But it's rare that they would turn down $1,500 a month, right?
Well,
It's
remember she
rare.
got caught. She got caught. So I caught her cheating, and she snitched on herself. She told on
Okay,
herself. So when she
so that
did
was
that, that
that was
I separated
that was
myself at
after
that
you
point.
guys were done, though,
So
for you to even question
no,
paternity and
yeah,
everything, like.
exactly. Yeah, we weren't, because remember, we weren't
So
together when she got pregnant, so I stuck it around. So even after the baby came, I found out, and that's why I went to question the paternity of my daughter. And when I
okay.
questioned the paternity, it quickly went from us being able to, hopefully see each other once a week or once every other week, to where it was just radio silent. Like it was almost like she went
Cause
into the
to
defense.
me, it's a lot of relationship shit. Like it's not nothing so much as you being a bad dad. It's
It was a
like
guilty conscience. She knew what she did, and I think that she wanted to play the role of a victim to make me seem like I was this bad guy, and to try to put away her own doing. And it came to light. It wasn't even me trying to look for anything. It was there.
she's
And I just
Caucasian.
they're Central American, but they're, I hate to even use the black and white thing, but like the white Central
Well, you
American. So it's
said that
still,
they were giving calling you racial slurs. So
oh
that's
yeah,
why I
oh
wanted
man,
to know
they used
what
to
the culture was
they used to always question if I was a thug,
in the
if I was a
race.
gangster, if I was all of this stuff, and I'm like, I got 5 degrees. Like, I'm far from a thug. I'm far from a gangster. Nothing against gangbangers or
So
anything. That's not
so
me.
so
But
did you move on? Did you have someone else
yeah,
new?
yeah, I moved on, man. It became too much, and like I said, we were already not together. So when everything boiled over, and she called my mother a bitch, this was after my child had been born, and at that point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is just too much. There's a point where when somebody disrespects you, there's certain things that's done and said that you can't do anymore. For me, I couldn't look past that, and I had to put my foot down, and I stepped away, and I was like, I'm totally done. Like, I really don't want shit to do with you. I don't want to work on anything, any of that stuff. And
But
that's why I
waiving
separated.
your rights, we have to cover that
Yeah.
We so
because we've
yeah.
had to have conversations. We've made posts. We've had this time and time again where people will say men will leave one kid and disregard that child and go take care of another kid, like just start over, start a new family, and disregard the fact that they have another child. What do you have to say about that? Because you actually waived your legal rights.
Yeah, so I was already in a relationship when I waived my rights. We weren't pregnant yet. Basically, I'd already moved on. I'd already dated this person for about 2.5 years up in this point when we decided to have a child. It was planned. He was planning everything. But this, our child,
Right. So
our
that's what
child,
I'm saying. Do you agree that men do this? Like they leave one relationship and leave the kid behind and then move on with another woman and then
it,
just rebuild a new family and that
it,
kid is
no,
valued more than the other child.
no. I think that's a very wrong way to look at it. If anybody does look at it that way, I think that's a event-based thing. Certain events may be different. Some people might really not have no morals or balls about them, so they really don't care about their kid. They're all about themselves.
The
But
true
in my
deadbeats.
situation,
Right.
say that again.
I said the true deadbeats, the ones who we know
Exactly.
didn't
That that they
fight, don't care, just right. But in
exactly.
your case, you just
I love my child, and I made it very known. I was like, I'm not leaving my kid, but I'm leaving you. I don't want to be with you. I'm not happy with you. So what am I supposed to do? Stay in a relationship with someone that I'm not happy
but you
with?
know you don't have to waive your legal rights
Well,
of your
I
child to
I
do that.
I didn't, but here's my thing. My back is against the wall. You're trying to throw me under the bus and try to find everything that you could pull out your pocket to make me look like a criminal. The fact that she knew I had my application back into the sheriff's department. I had my firearm instructor license coming through for me to teach. I was teaching domestic violence classes for women and kids. I was doing a lot of positive things within my community, and I was trying to build my business. But when she did that by trying to claim that I was abusive to her, knowing that I physically wasn't, and she admitted that in court under oath, then it was her being salacious the whole time of trying to bring me down.
But
And
wouldn't
her
that give you leverage? Wouldn't that give you
well, you would
leverage?
think that, but when the judge is sitting there siding with her, telling her, "Yeah, I think that you're a danger. I think you're this. I think you're that." I'm like, "Well, how? Like, if I'm the one that's being hit, if I'm telling you that she's pulling stuff on me and she's saying things to me, and I'm calling the cops on her, how am I the person that becomes the bad person when I decide to walk away?"
Did you have a
And
lawyer?
I did have a lawyer, but getting into court, all I remember is we walked in that day. They gave him, I like to call a packet of discovery. It was a folder, a bunch of stuff with messages and stuff. He did not want me to see it, did not show it to me, didn't even speak up when it was time to speak up, and basically left me there to hang to where the judge had to dismiss him and only speak to me. She asked me about 6 or 7 questions. I responded to them as
Was this
truthful
a
and as
lawyer
honestly.
that you retained or a court appointed
I did.
attorney or something?
Retained, paid them, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So
and I'm glad that y'all mentioned this because we preach this all the time too. When you hire a lawyer, you got to make sure you do your due diligence on these lawyers too as well because every lawyer is not a good lawyer, and
Right.
you know,
exactly. And he came through via um a close relative of mine who is in the law enforcement world. So it was a blessing coming from him. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna hear him out. I'm gonna hear what he has to say. I'm gonna listen to him. And everything seemed to have been good. We had a good game plan. I had everything broken down for him. Like, everything was detailed, all the text messages, all the pitch, everything. And it was just like when I stepped in there, nothing was seen, nothing was accepted, nothing was looked at. I tried to give him my packet of discovery. I tried to give them all my information, and they totally just rejected everything. They
Because
didn't.
sometimes these lawyers be having bad relationships with these judges too as well.
Yeah, their reputation can make all the difference.
Yeah.
So to get us to the restraining order, how long was the term of the order?
Sorry, I'm just hopping back in here. The restraining order for me was apparently it was so she was crazy how she went about doing her stuff, right? So she knew that we were interacting with each other, we would see each other, we would talk to each other. When she filed the restraining order, she filed the restraining order very quietly. Found out I found out what I found out, say on right.
You're breaking
You're
up.
breaking up. You're breaking up.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So like let's just say
It's a bad
we already
connection.
Yeah.
work together. Uh,
Yeah, it's a bad
That
connection. We
can you hear
can't.
me?
You breaking up.
It's going in and out. So wherever you are, it's not a good connection.
Yeah.
We'll give you some
All right, let me
time
see if I
to,
can move.
yeah, get together. But as far as the order, I know that it's California. In most places, a restraining order and a order of protection are two different things. Is that the same for Cali?
They're yeah, they're via words. Like if you're speaking about the yeah, it's the same thing.
Are you
This
driving?
side.
You can't. You can't drive. There, kick that. Stop the live.
I'm just pulling out to a different spot because I guess where I was
Oh,
parked, I don't have good service, so I'm pulling right across the street.
Okay, we'll give
That
you
way I could just post up.
a couple of
okay.
seconds to get to.
All right.
And see if you can turn the light on too in the car. But yeah, man, this for those that's listening, man, y'all got to make sure y'all do y'all due diligence on y'all lawyer, man. He made a valuable point. He had a game plan. He went in there and nothing happened. The
And
lawyer never spoke up for him, never did any of that. So y'all got to make sure y'all do y'all due diligence and know these lawyers' reputation, their credentials, or what they went to school for, and is they because a lot of lawyers, I thought that all lawyers are trial lawyers. A lot of lawyers is not all trial lawyers.
yeah,
So
they
you
they
got
don't they don't
You really want a board certified lawyer, but
yeah
they're pricey. But
yeah
it just
yeah,
depends
they're
on the
super
case
pricey.
that you have. But when you have a crazy complicated case, you really want to research and just don't pick anybody because in your case you said you lost, and that's what I'm
Yeah, I
really
paid
trying to get to.
and I think I paid after I switched out to two different lawyers. So after I paid everything, I think I paid close to $78,000 for the whole ordeal. Because the way which like I said, what she had done was say I found out everything on a Tuesday or Wednesday, right? I we were still talking in between that time. But say Friday morning she goes and she files the restraining order and then she calls me and she lies to me saying that she's at the doctor. She sets up to meet me the next day, knowing that she already filed a restraining order, but didn't send it. So when I moved out, I moved to a whole different, place. She knew where I lived. She knew exactly what the address was. So she decided to send it to my old place of business, knowing that I hadn't been there for about a year and a half, knowing that I wouldn't get it, which means that she would, by default, get the judgment.
Get
So
the
if I
order,
was ever
yeah.
around her, you know, so I didn't know anything about this, and when I tried to contact her, she went ghost. So I just filed the stuff, and then I ended up I think 2 days before we walked into court, my attorney told me, "Hey, you do know that you have a restraining order on you." And at this point, I'm like, "Wait, what the fuck you mean a restraining order from who? I don't mess with nobody. I don't go nowhere. I don't."
It's a
Tells me the
tactic,
name.
you know.
Yeah,
If you know the civil bullet, anybody watching,
yeah,
false
yeah.
allegations can be made of abuse or violence, domestic violence, and that will have the
and they
courts
not
grant the
asking no
woman this order
questions.
to prevent the judge right. Most orders are given, ex parte, meaning they'll make the claim, they'll get granted the order, and then there's a hearing
Mm-hmm.
where you have to
Mm-hmm.
go defend yourself to try to get it dismissed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and if it doesn't,
Yeah,
then that order will prevent you from being around your child.
So
yeah.
get us to the part where like what was your breaking point to make you say I'm done I know you mentioned losing in court, but I know that wasn't the in all. It
It
had
was
to be
because it was because I saw that her main focus and purpose was to try to destroy me and
To
destroy what I
ruin you,
had going.
to ruin your
So
life.
her
Yeah.
stories went from me being, a drug dealer, then I was money laundering, and then I was uh, saying that I was this guy that people hire to go beat up people, and then it got into I'm a predator and that I abuse people, and I'm like,
All
well,
these things.
yeah, so it just and I'm looking at the attorneys and I'm like, do you not see that she keeps every time that she says something and we throw a response to it, she switches it up and then it's a new story. I'm like, do you not see what's going on? Look at the messages, the text messages that I'm showing you guys. You can clearly see what this. I've been telling this woman, leave me alone, go live your life, go be happy. How do I now become the bitter person if I've been telling her for a whole year to go live her life? So, like I said, nothing what I had done or tried to prove was considered. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I can't. They offered to give me virtual
supervised.
visitation,
Oh, okay.
FaceTime for like 20 minutes every other weekend. And based on that for 6 months, if they were okay with how I was, then I would have to hire a supervised visit and I would have to pay for that. I'm like, what? So you're telling me I need a babysitter to look after my kid? I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, you know what? Stories have changed too much. This is defamatory to the most extent. This is putting stress on me. I'm spending all of this money. I'm offering all of this. I'm offering more money for my child. You would think money is what you want. Okay, here's 3 grand. Here's 25. No, no. Then what do you want? They couldn't tell me what they wanted. So I just got to the point where it's like I'm not gonna keep fighting for something that y'all gonna just make difficult. And then what made me even more furious about it was the judge didn't really give me a chance to really say my side. She just kind of jumped to the conclusion that I was all of this of what they were saying. And I tried to speak, and because I had weapons, so I had a bunch of guns. I had over like 20 some weapons, right? And she went and basically was like, "Why didn't you turn in all your weapons?" I'm like, "I didn't know that I had a restraining order on me until a day or two ago, and I was told by my counsel not to worry about turning them in because this was an illegal service. Nobody served me. Nobody came to me. Y'all dropped it off at a total different building with somebody totally different. They went, signed for it, but that's not in representation of me. So I didn't know anything about this. They didn't. She was like, I don't care about this. You're a professional. You should know this. I'm like, well, so I'm supposed to know that I'm under what? I'm like, no, I'm not working in that capacity to have to look myself up because I know that I'm not doing anything to anybody to have to have one of these. So what she ended up doing was she granted that I could keep certain amount of guns, like certain guns that I would choose for myself in order for me to keep working and doing what I had to do. But then I had to turn all the rest in, which is the proper procedure for any gun owner and restraining order process that goes on.
So
Uh,
are you still on the restraining order?
Hell yeah,
It's
they
still
took it from it was a temporary restraining order and they put it for 5 years. I'm on year
Yeah,
three.
that's what I asked earlier, the length
Uh,
of the order. So with her being 5 now, how much time is left?
I think by the time I even get the opportunity again, if I do, should be about 7 or 8.
So what does this look like with what does it consist of with you waiving your rights? I mean, what do you expect for the future?
So everybody knows out there when you waive your rights as a parent, and I know a lot of people are gonna judge on this, but I think until you're
They're
faced with my
definitely gonna call you a deadbeat.
yeah, well, I mean, which is fine. Like that's cool because I know that I'm not, and if I was, then my son's mother would have never even decided to look at me and look in my direction, knowing the type of woman that she is, right? But everybody that knows me knows how dedicated I am to my children and how dedicated I was to my little girl because that was my first child. So I go to sleep well at night. But I never wanted, and this is the reason why I did it, so you guys can understand how this works out, is I never wanted my child to grow up thinking that I ever harmed her, I ever touched her, ever did anything to her, that I was this bad parent that put her in harm's way. I would rather my daughter grow up thinking, well, fuck, why did my dad leave me? You know,
But
what
why do
was
you
it?
think it'll be any different? Because
She's gonna see it
alienating is
herself.
punk kids full of
because
information that's not true all the time.
she could feed my daughter whatever, but my child's not stupid, and she's gonna grow up. She's gonna see the truth through it. We all, as kids, we know. You could reflect 2020 hindsight right now and say where you could probably know or see where your mom was the problem or your dad was the problem in their relationship
No,
as
I'm
an
just
adult.
saying based on your statement that you didn't want your child to grow up thinking X, Y, Z. I mean,
Because she, well,
with
the most
you
thing was
waiving
because
your
she,
rights, that wouldn't change what she's been influenced to think. Is what I'm saying. If it's
it's
not true,
definitely,
it's not
it's
true. But
yeah, yeah,
she's gonna be told whatever at this point because
yeah.
you waived your rights. There's no presence there to even defend it.
And
Is what I'm saying.
and you know what? And I've thought about that, you know, and she's gonna be her own woman. She's gonna be a beautiful, strong, very intelligent woman, and she's going to be able to decipher if she thinks that I am really that person that just didn't want anything to do with her. You know, hence why I have her whole name tatted on my back, across my whole back. Like I said, I would do anything for my child. I have a savings fund that I've set aside for her since she was born, that she has, you know, money in, and I have life insurance policies out for her that she's set. So if anything happens to me, my child's a millionaire automatically, both of them. You know, so it's not like I'm not working for her still. That's still my pride and joy, along with her brother. That's still my responsibility, regardless of what happened. But I don't have to put it out there to the world to show anybody or prove to anybody what I'm doing for my kid. When it comes down to it, she will know that she was always taken care of. I know that her mom is a good mother, so I don't question that, and I would never question that.
She's
But
not a
her,
good mother.
I,
A good
like I
mother
said,
in
I'm
what
not.
way?
I'm not,
We
Food,
and I
we
get
not
that.
true.
clothing,
We not true.
housing.
So we can speak on
I
this.
guess for
So
me,
wait, before we even deep dive, because I'm we respect you. We appreciate your transparency because you are the first father that we've had actively come on here and say that they waived their rights. We've had
yeah,
men just give up, stop fighting, doing things to take a break to maybe come back to it. But waiving your rights, that's a whole nother level of letting
yeah,
go, because if you do that, it's a possibility you cannot get those back. You cannot come
yeah.
back, and you
I've
can't
tried it.
say I'm being alienated when you waived your rights. At that point
Yeah,
you made a choice. So this is why we're diving, because people are gonna, this is new, this is new for us, this is new for everybody. So I really want to be clear, and
yeah.
I appreciate you being
Yes,
so
ma'am.
descriptive and giving us all the details because it's necessary. So
Yeah,
I guess in this place of talking about you making a choice, we know that this stuff is very difficult for fathers. And you were honest. She was trying to ruin your life. So you had to say, hey, before I let this woman take everything, because without you, it's no nothing. Without you, you can't even be a father. You can't do anything. And a lot of
exactly,
men know this. They just don't choose to go as far as you did. So that's
exactly.
why we're trying to get clarity. But we understand
Yeah,
where you are in terms of somebody trying to ruin your life, and you just saying, hey, at this point I got to choose, and you
yeah,
chose yourself.
yeah,
Nobody here is going to judge you for that because we
yeah.
understand it, but we do need to understand why would you go to the max and take it as far as just
Because
waiving your rights, because
so
at
uh,
that point you
the
can't
100%
reverse that.
honesty, the 100% honesty to it is, um, from my own personal experience growing up as a child, I experienced certain things that I wish kids would never experience. Right. So when those things started to be brought up as if though I was reflective in my behavior and thought process as what I went through, I automatically was like, I'm gonna spare. So if I have to be 100% real, basically she was trying to say that I was this
Pedophilia
like
or something.
she was trying to accuse me of sexually abusing her, which there was never any truth to
Okay.
that, right?
Okay.
And she used, so as a child, I was molested and raped by someone that my father was seeing, right? And he's
Mhm.
probably gonna see this now, but I've never told him. I told my mother about it, and I was about 7 or 8 years old. And this grown ass woman, I remember she used to, tongue kiss me, touch me, do all these type of things. And again, I'm not scared to talk about it. But she was the first person that I had shared any of this with when I really understood what was going on. Because when we got
Mhm.
together, it was like we were 18, 19, this was the time that I was kind of figuring out what was going on. And I think a lot of times out there in our society, a lot of young boys have to deal with that. Not just the potential of a man touching them, but women too. And I think because we're sexualized in our society so much, we don't look at it as bad. Oh, we kissed a girl. That's what we're supposed to do. But when you understand that you're a child and a grown woman is doing that to you, that's a very violating type of situation. And so when she took my story and made it into her own story in court and tried to make me seem like that this was my trend of behavior. Like I said, it went from me being a dad that drove around with guns in his car, and she starts saying that I'm on drugs, and then, she starts saying that I was a money launderer. Then she went to that I'm a gangster and just different things. And then she got to that point. And I'm like, you know what?
Enough is
The last
enough.
thing we're gonna do is my
Yeah.
daughter's gonna cut. You're not gonna come and say, oh look, she has a mark on her leg or on her back, and you're abusing her and you're beating on her. You're doing any of that. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna take a L on this one. My daughter might not grow up with me, but she's not gonna grow up ever thinking that I ever essay her or ever tried to beat on her or none of that. It's there in the paperwork. I was the first one that went. I actually went to a lawyer before this one that took it to court. I went to two different lawyers and I retained one of them and I paid them. And I backed out halfway because I was like, you know what? She begged me not to go to court. So I did not go. We wanted to keep our kids out of it. Yeah. So I did her a solid and I told her, you know what? I'm not going to do it. So when all this stuff went on, I said, you know what? You fucked with the wrong one. I got you. I'm going to give you exactly what you wanted. And I said, I'm going to see your ass in court. Well, they took that and they flipped that and they tried to say that I threatened that I was going to come after her and do her things. And I'm like, bro, what? Like, what do you, if I wanted
Yeah.
to, I would have. When has a restraining order stopped anybody from doing anything? It's a piece
Right.
of paper at the end of the day. If you don't respect the law, you won't respect that. I respect the law
It's
because I've
not
been there
even
before.
That's
proactive.
true.
It's reactive. Like
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
reactive. Law enforcement is reactive.
Man,
So
yeah,
that's
I
tough.
thank you for
Breaking
summing
that
it up.
down.
Yeah,
And we
because
sorry that happened to you, man.
yeah, sorry to hear that.
yeah.
And that's got to be tough to even be for that to be used against you to somebody that you told that in confidence. You know.
I trusted.
And
Yeah,
and the fact that you as a father, you still a father. Don't matter what a piece of paper say. That's
yeah.
still your daughter. And then you as a protector, I know that's probably getting to you wondering, is your daughter safe
Dude,
because you are the protector of
and
her.
and this is the thing. People hire me now to protect their businesses and their family and all that. That's what I do for a living. So imagine I'm out here protecting everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that I can, but I can't even protect my own because, you know, there's make believe stories going around, delusional situations being created to make me look a certain way. And I'm like, okay, I told my son's mom, I said, if I'm really this way, you will see the truth in my behavior sooner than later because you can't hide that type of person, right? Me and her are good. Me and my son are amazing. I'm with my son every day. She doesn't hold him back. She doesn't get in the way. That she's a beautiful human being, allows me to be a parent. We've had our own issues, but she's amazing nonetheless, an amazing mother at that. And so I beg to think like your smear campaign didn't go as planned. But then what now? What's going to happen when she gets older and she starts asking questions? Because that's very much my child, and she's very much in attitude, very like me, very similar, very similar.
So
So
do
you
you do
might
you
not want
know
to deal with me,
anything
but you're going to
about
end up
her?
dealing with me through her.
Do you know anything about her or what she's doing in life or anything?
Honestly, I could. If I wanted to, I could hire personal investigators. I could do all that, but I've respected everything to the utmost because for a while, her mom was up on social media creating fake profiles, contacting my partner. Going out of her way to look at our different stuff, and we
But
even tricked her
why? Because she
because
literally didn't want you to be a part of her life.
exactly. She was the one saying that I was everything in the book. So if I was everything in the book, why do you care about who and what I'm doing now that me and you aren't together? Why are you so concerned about it? And the thing that blew me off was we realized what it was. Like we still have all the screenshots from all. And in one of them, she was so stupid. Where excuse my French, but she was really stupid for this. She got on there, and I had paid for her to go to esthetician school to do whatever she wanted to do, and I bought all the equipment, everything. And I remember she had created an Instagram page for it, and she had her phone number and email in there. And that same page, she took down all her stuff, but forgot to take her number and her email off, and was looking at our stuff from there, sending different things, like questioning all kind of crazy. She's like, bro, you're telling on yourself. So when that got into that, I'm like, you know what? You're coming to my family, you're talking about me, saying all of these things, but bro, you filed a restraining order. You went and did all of this. You told on yourself that you was messing around. You told. So what do you want me to do? You want me to just? No, I'm sorry. Like, bro, it's
So
already, it's
did
been over,
Well, go
right?
ahead.
no, no, I was just saying. So do any of your family members get a chance to see your
No, they all
daughter?
cut her off. The minute she started to try to do her smear campaign, my family is very supportive of me. They know what
Yes,
it is. They
that's
don't
what they're
stand for that. I was
supposed to
raised by
do.
They
number
did
women,
the right thing.
Did the right
so
They
they
thing.
did the
all cut
right
her
thing.
off. Yeah.
When you say that your child's mother is a good mother, I guess you meant that kind of in a facetious way, just saying that you
No, I'm
feel
talking
that
about my
she
son's mom, not my daughter's mom.
No,
My son's
earlier,
mom.
earlier.
earlier when we
Yeah.
told you
Go
no,
ahead.
she's not about your daughter's mother.
Oh
What
well,
was that, just a statement just to
no, no,
say
no. I meant
the
that. I meant that in the sense that I know her in her parental way. I may not agree with her decision to take her away from me or to do what she did, but to that extent, she's a bad mom because she doesn't understand the damage that she's doing. But to say on a day to day that her intention is to just be a screwed up mom to my little girl, no, I think that she tries her best to mother her and love her and be there for her from
they
what I've
that
seen.
it's
But
it's
it
it's
can be argued.
no it's no straddling the fence with this. Like, if you're thinking about day to day basic needs as far as feeding a kid, clothing them, pretending that life is good because you can do all these things and they're whatever to you. If you strip another parent from a child, it's no way that you love that child and you're doing what's in their
Yeah.
best interest.
That
So you
yeah, I
people
agree.
seem to put that in separate categories,
Categories, but
but it's
Yeah.
all in
it's
one.
all hand in hand.
And so
Yeah.
that's just a harsh reality. We get it, because
Yeah.
it's plenty of moms that will dress their girls up in pretty and pink and have pretty bows, but what is the damage that's being done on the inside? We
That's
Yeah.
can't talk about the outside and what's on the surface.
And
What is the psychological damage that your daughter is experiencing because she can't see you, know
and you
you?
know, one of the things that concern me where I want parents to be very especially mothers, yes, make the cognitive and decisive choice whether or not that father is a good father, but don't base it off of your own personal emotions because you can't get out of it what you want. What you want to look at is how he interacts with your child, his behavioral patterns in terms of when they're having a tantrum. How does he respond to that? Does he care?
But all
And
of that is facilitating giving them a level of control that they don't
what
necessarily have,
exactly?
because
But you
it's
know what? You can't blame them.
50-50.
You have to blame the system that has them in that situation.
you
You
breaking
breaking
up,
up.
breaking up,
Mm. You
man.
probably froze for a reason.
Yeah,
Because we definitely don't agree with what you was just saying. So I want you to unfreeze so we can get right into this, because
because
we,
blaming,
we, we don't compromise with crazy. Not over here.
uh, blaming the system. I don't blame the system. I
Mm-mm.
blame them.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You
Mm-mm.
gone? We lost you.
Log out and come back in then. Because before we